G'day and welcome to Kenty Blitz, your daily hit of NRL news, and we're back on a Monday, Kenty, and a great weekend of footy.
Yeah, it's terrific, wasn't it? There was, it really gets interesting from this point onwards. We had that little letdown after Origin, but with each week, the finals pitches gets a little bit sharper. Teams have got higher stakes that they're playing for until they get eliminated. And I think we saw that on the weekend. We saw some really good footy. I thought the Roosters Knights game was a real belter of a game. I really enjoyed it. The one after it, not so much. Melbourne and South, it was two teams that are just, particularly Melbourne, they've just lost their way as a side this season. It's quite the decline of a few teams this year has been quite disturbing. Melbourne probably chief among them.
They seem to have so much going on at the club, Melbourne. Maybe that's contributed to it. With Craig Bellamy's unfortunate illness, but also just so many injuries, so many players who they didn't think were going to be out for the season or out for the season.
They've got legitimate excuses.
Yeah.
But the one thing I saw out of Melbourne, which I thought came really clear on the weekend, Melbourne always were a side to me that whatever the situation was in a game, they're all, to a man, so well educated and always made the right decision.
Yeah, good call.
And on the weekend, some of their decision-making defensively, like Foranball is unbelievable with the ball.
So what about that try?
Such a liability in defence. He doesn't make it. He can't stop a try. He cannot stop a try. And he's out of position. And I worry whether he's starting to learn that skill, if you want to call it that, of getting there just too late. So it looks like he tried to get there, but he just got there too late. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't like contact when it comes to defence, which is probably why he's such a good ball runner. But he's a coach killer in that respect because he's so good, so good with the ball. But then defensively, he doesn't stop any tries. So he's got to score one or two just to break even on the balance sheet.
It's interesting because last year, early in the season, I heard the Storm had question marks over Foranball. This is when Pappenhausen was there early last year. And whenever I saw him, I thought he was a superstar, and he's turned into a superstar. But it's interesting you talk about that because many fullbacks over the years have had that problem, that defensive problem, and they end up not having a long career in the NRL.
Well, Billy Slater is the greatest fullback I've ever seen on a regular basis. And Billy was as equally great defensively as he was with the ball. Most people focused on his attack and what he could do there, and he was brilliant. But defensively, he could stop tries. The amount of times a player would get over in the corner and Billy would be underneath them, preventing them from getting the ball down.
Sometimes with his feet.
Yeah, but look, he was doing it when it was legal, and shortly after it was illegal. But no, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was able to stop tries.
And when you look at Reece Walsh in the grand final last year,
yeah,
defensively, he was as good as he was
And
attacking.
that's, look, the game by definition is 50% defence. If you're bringing a duck egg to defence, then I think you really got to reassess your game. But the thing about all that is really, it's not just for Foranball that he's not responsible for what's happened in Melbourne. It's just disappointing. I feel really sad for Craig that it's happened. He's frustrated. He's typically Craig, so honest in the press conference after it. He's been a man without answers all season. But there's been a few teams like that. But there's also been some teams who have really excelled this year, like the Knights. But they kind of take a trick, just as they. I thought they had a couple of things go against them on the weekend on Friday night. That if it had been ruled in their favour, would have got them the victory. But that's a complaint Knights fans will have. But on top of losing Dylan Brown and Dylan Lucas. That's just a twin blow. It's going to be very difficult to recover from that. And it couldn't have lost. I know any time you lose players like that is a bad time, but with the run into this finals where they're still fighting for a top 4 spot, the fact that one's an Origin player, one's an international, it's a significant loss for that club. So
the good news for the Knights is they do have some cover in Sandon Smith, but Dylan Brown has been a standout this year, and Dylan Lucas has played Origin.
Yeah, and you would call, look, Sandon Smith, if you want to be kind, is in his second season of NRL, perhaps his first. This is the season he's played the most consistently in first grade. He started to make his bones last year when he was at the Roosters. But it's a big difference between international, like a Dylan Brown, what he can bring, and Sandon Smith. And that's with due respect to Sandon Smith. He can play, but he's still very much on the improving. His best football is still to come and his years away, whereas Brown was doing a great job for the Knights. I really sympathise with them, and I really poor old Justin Holbrook. He'll find a way around it, but they just won't have that punch that they had with those two in the side,
and that they probably need to challenge for a premiership
to make an impact. They need them. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the Roosters, obviously, because that game was a fantastic game, and the Roosters, like we were talking about on Thursday, I think once again found a way to get the 2 points.
Well, that's what they're doing. Like you look at the competition; they're only 2 points now behind Penrith. Penrith at the beginning of the season, people were asking whether they were going to go undefeated. Now here the Roosters, who really no one's paid much attention to, 2 points behind, just really shaping up nicely for the finals. Everything seems to be coming together for the Roosters at the right time. Trent Robinson, he's shown to be a coach, which I really like this in coaches. He's shown to be a coach who can get a team to sort of come into a final series with momentum. When they've been strong before, they've come into a final series with momentum, and it looks like they're building towards that now. And that's really that's what Brisbane did last year. I think you have an advantage as opposed to the teams that sit in a idle high all season. They seem they can struggle sometimes. Melbourne Storm are a side like that. You go back in the day, Manly were a side like that. Manly used to idle high, used to come in up, lost a few games throughout the season, but had really no next level to get to in the finals. Whereas if you saw for Brisbane, for example, last year, just kept getting better and finding a way, and the momentum and it snowballed and got bigger with each match. And I think that's what the Roosters are really good at doing. I like them. And Cronulla, they're the other side. They just keep chipping away. They've been in some great form.
Won eight of the last 9.
Yeah, 8 of the last 9. Nico Hines is rediscovered that Dally M winning form. He's running the ball again. They finally got it right. Look, Trindle runs the side. Hines just plays that. He plays a 5/8 role essentially, even though he wears the 7 jersey. Craig Fitzgibbon does that to basically take the speculation and innuendo and criticism away from Nico, and it's worked. He's really shown his capabilities as a coach as well. Craig Fitzgibbon. I think the top 4. I think he's got 6 years, and I think 4 of them he's made the top 4. The other 2 made the finals. So
with no real standout superstars. Well, I know Hines is on a lot of money, but not many players have played Origin from that team.
Yeah. And even then, if you pick the 10 best players in the game, Cronulla wouldn't have one.
No. I wonder how many in the top 50. I don't know. I would say.
Depends who puts together the top 50, doesn't it?
Yeah. But, my point is it's a well-coached team, probably without superstars.
Yeah, look, they've got the good players in the positions necessary. Like, obviously, Hines and Trindle are better than average, and they're the halves.
But Will Kennedy, fullback. But, he only gets 1-year contracts, so they can't think that he's a superstar.
No,
otherwise
you've got Fanua Blake there and Cam McInnes. Like, they've got some good players in there who are contributing significantly to their wins.
Brayley as well.
Yeah, Brayley, obviously, at hooker.
Not such a great weekend for your Tigers, who were blown off the park on the weekend. What the hell is going on there? Adam Doueihi, obviously, we spoke about that on Friday's primetime, wants out of the club or did want out of the club, apparently. What's going on there, Kenty? There was a meeting this morning.
Yeah, look, there's a big book out there. It's a very big, thick book. It's about how to stuff up management. And the Tigers just keep contributing to it. They had a meeting this morning with Adam Doueihi. And this is – okay, let's go back to it. So Doueihi didn't play last week after the fallout of Benji. We'll backtrack on that a little bit in a moment. But just to this morning, the meeting was held between Benji, the coach, CEO Sean Millercamp, football manager Pat Richards, Adam Doueihi, and his manager Isaac Moses. They've come out. Millercamp's issued a 21-second statement.
I think we've got that statement. Have we got that statement there?
I'm here today to just confirm that Benji Marshall, Pat Richards, myself have met with Adam Doueihi and his agent. It was a very positive and productive meeting. Adam will be at training tomorrow, which is a very good sign. And what's really important is that what is said in that room stays in that room. That's important for us as a club. We're all doing what's best for the club. We've got no further comment. Thank you.
Now, as you saw, or as you just heard, absolutely nothing in that. And all that is just the next chapter in this big book of stuffing it all up. It is far from resolved. It may not be, probably won't be resolved this week in a satisfactory manner, but I dare say it will be resolved over the next 5-6 weeks and as the season comes to a conclusion. Pat Richards, the football manager, and this is what gets you. Last night rang Adam Doueihi, said to him, mate, we want to have this meeting tomorrow, but we want it to be just you, me, and Benji. So they're going to keep Isaac Moses out of the meeting, and they're going to keep Sean Millercamp out of the meeting. That was a strategy to keep Doueihi's manager out of there and have him unrepresented, where they could, I don't know, lay a guilt trip on him and all the rest of it. Doueihi, fortunately, was too smart for that and spoke to Moses, I assume, and Moses would have said, no way, this is happening, and they kiboshed it. But they tried to get him into that meeting without his manager.
Yeah, I mean, in a normal course of business, when you're talking to somebody at that level at an employment level, exactly.
Yeah,
they generally have representation.
You have to.
Yep.
Yeah, legally you have to. Anyway, but they tried to get him in there without, try to make out it's that kind of issue. This is the sort of cowboy mentality that the Tigers have had for far too long. Now, let's break it down. Let's go back to where this began. This began last week, and the Seeds were saying when Adam Doueihi was charged by the Judiciary for a head-eye tackle, and he wanted to fight the charge in order to be able to play on the weekend against Canberra. He rang Benji Marshall and said, what do you think? Now,
About contesting,
because he wanted to contest it. Benji, and this is the unusual part, said, you do what you want. And Doueihi was a bit like, what? Like, you're the coach. Like, I'm trying to, I'm risking further penalty and no deduction or no discount by contesting it so I can play this weekend. And he said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, mate, it's up to you. You do what you want. So Doueihi thought, that's strange. So Doueihi elects to fight it, goes to the Judiciary, wins the hearing, which is buy a lottery ticket on the way home because that doesn't happen often. Now, Benji doesn't turn up at the Judiciary to support him. If you remember Ivan Cleary earlier this year when his players were up, he turned up with them and supported them.
That seems odd, Kenty, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's odd. I think I know why, and this is part of the problem at the club. I'll tell you in a minute. But he turns up. Benji doesn't turn up. He wins the case. And Benji doesn't call him after to even say, mate, well done. Now, the reason I think that happened and Benji didn't turn up or didn't ring him to say well done was because by then Benji had already named his team. And he named Doueihi in the 22 jersey and the rookie Javen Andrews in the number 7. Now, I think he's played 13 games this season, Doueihi, and he's played halfback in all of them. Anyway, Doueihi had no idea that he hadn't been named. He got a phone call the next morning from somebody who said to him, mate, why are you wearing 22 this week? And he was like, what? And he said, you're in 22. He said, mate, I don't know. He said, nothing said to me. So the club hadn't even told him he'd been dropped. Benji is a head coach. This is such a fundamental mistake by Benji. This is coaching 101, that you give your players, particularly a player as important to you as Doueihi, the respect of calling him and telling him what's going to happen. But he didn't do that. So Doueihi rings Benji and says, what's going on? He said, oh, yeah, I've made a decision. I'm going to bring you off the bench. I'm going to play you at lock. He's going to rest. When Twile comes off for a rest, he's going to go on a lock. Now, Doueihi didn't want to play lock. And we know, he's played every game at halfback. He's played lock
couple of times.
Sparingly in the past, but that's not his position.
I've got the stats there, Kenty, if you want to know them. So he's played 2 games. This is for the West Tigers. 2 games at lock, 34 at centre, 32 at halfback, and 48 in 5'8".
So he's played twice at lock in his career at the Tigers. Benji wanted to move into lock. What people also don't know is he's carrying a shoulder injury, and mostly he didn't want to defend at lock. Now, playing attack at lock, you can still get the ball at first receiver and still play very much a halfback role, the way they play the modern locks. But certainly he wasn't keen on defending a lock with his busted shoulder. Anyway, so they had the discussion. He was upset about all the rest of it. It didn't really solve anything. And then after that, it was basically, well, I don't know. Now, he got a phone call, I think, from the next day from Camp, the CEO, who said to him, well, what's going on? And they spoke about it. And Camp talked to, said, well, I sympathise with you. I get what you're saying. And part of the thing, he had another discussion with Benji where he sort of let his grievances out. And what came out then was the frustration from Doueihi. Again, he said, mate, I'm the guy who's been holding the standards at the club here. I'm driving a lot of that within the playing group. And Luai's leaving the club. Andrews is a rookie halfback, and you've moved me to the bench to play both of them. And anyway, got into a broader discussion. One of the ones is about the standards being upheld at the club. If you remember, Benji gave the speech earlier, beginning of the season, which they recorded, which made you either start buckling down or you can go to buggery, so to speak. And he threatened the players, if you don't toe the line, you're on your way out. And Doueihi said, mate, guys are turning up to gym sessions with a bum bag around their waist, vaping as they're doing their weights. Like that is gangster mentality gone too far. The Indians are running the nut house at the moment. So in amongst all that, in part of the meeting, and I dare say probably the reason that Doueihi opened up about some of his concerns at the club was that Benji told him he was a selfish player. And that's when Doueihi's like, well, hang on. I'm the guy that, I'm getting them around to my place for a barbecue. You want to talk about standards? Let's look what's happening in the gym. All this bullshit you said earlier at the start of the season, you failed to uphold it. So that's where it all began to disintegrate. And that's where Doueihi just said, you know what? And I don't know if he was done, but he was pretty much off the club at the time. And he left. Anyway, he finished that meeting with Benji. Camp then got involved as the CEO. He told him the few home truths that the CEO probably wasn't aware of. And then Camp said, mate, take the weekend off, get your head together, and we'll have a meeting next week. Now, once again, they played Saturday. I don't know why it couldn't have been resolved Sunday. Like something like this, you don't just let it sit and fester for a day. All you're doing for a club that's in turmoil like that, and he's been spoke about with ridicule by now, and everybody just laughing at the hapless Tigers who once again have stuffed it all up, made bad decisions, got it all wrong, and basically pulled the joke on themselves. You don't let it just sit and fester for another day in the media. You resolve it as quick as possible.
But they also did that with the Luai thing. They didn't answer any questions
because
on the Saturday night.
They don't know. They don't know what to do. They sit back, hoping it'll disappear, and they make it worse. So they sat there all day Sunday with their finger up their bum doing nothing. You know what I mean? And anyway, then Richards made the phone call. Mate, we'll have this meeting tomorrow, but you leave your manager at home. We'll leave the CEO at home just as a compromise, which was it was as naive as anything. So Doueihi's like, no. So then they had the meeting this morning, which, again, he's come out and he's given nothing concrete about what happened other than say, yeah, we met and we're not going to talk about it. We've got to keep it in-house. Well, mate, I just gave you everything that's happened. It's not in-house. And I'm not the only guy that knows what's going on. Like, that's been hearing what's going on. It is everywhere. You trip over on the street, you find out what's happened. Like it's the to sit there and have this, I don't know, try and grab this higher moral ground we're not going to talk about what happened in the meeting. Well, you haven't resolved what's happened. You come out and you give Tigers fans a clear resolution. It hasn't been resolved, though. That's why they can't give you the answer. It will continue to fester. It's not been fixed. Doueihi's not going to walk back into training tomorrow and high-five everybody.
No.
It's not going to be now, but the other part, the interesting part to this, Sunday he received 4 to 5 phone calls, text messages from his teammates. Mate, I'm on your side. I've got your back.
Doueihi.
Doueihi did.
Yep.
So it's far from Doueihi in isolation, just being this prima donna who wants to sit there and it's all about me. The fact he called out standards within the club, the favourable treatment of some players, and I'll name one, Terrell May. Terrell May can do no wrong at the Tigers. Benji looks after him because he sees him led to believe as like one of the spiritual leader of the group, and you lose him, you lose the herd. So he looks after him. Now, Terrell May missed 2 tackles on the weekend, one of which was he arguing with the referee over a knock-on while Simisa Sungi ran past him to score a try. Now, let's talk about standards. Make the tackle. You know what I mean? Make the tackle. But the feeling within elements of the club is certain players can do no wrong. Benji allows that to happen, partly because I think they, for various reasons. One is that they're helping Benji coach the team. They're offering their two bits and all the rest of it. Another guy who texted him now on the weekend was Jerome Luai, who basically said, mate, I'll support you. If you want me to step down, I'll step down and you take the 6 jersey. Now, I've had a couple of discussions about this with people in the game, and I said, well, that's a fairly noble gesture given the situation. But one person pointed out, said, well, mate, all this trouble started with him. You know what I mean? And now it's turned to shit. He said, well, look, take me out and you guys come in and fix it. So you can look at it both ways. And I don't know which way the club's looking to go right now, but I just sit there and I look at this dead fish of an answer that the CEO gave today when he walked out of this meeting, which is fixed nothing, stopped nothing, and the club is just going to continue on. There'll be a media circus there tomorrow to film Doueihi at training. Everybody will be looking at the interaction between the players. It will be a lot of fake shit going on, a lot of blokes coming up and shaking his hand and
laughing.
They'll get a vision of them laughing together, all that sort of business, and it'll all be happy families. But meanwhile, it is percolating in the background.
So, Kenty, where did this go wrong? Because Doueihi only last year re-signed until the end of 2029. I
thought it was early this year, wasn't it?
No, it was last year.
Last year, was it?
And the reason was it was well publicised. The Dragons and a few other teams were in on him, and he was going to play 13 for those teams. And then I don't know if you remember, but he had that blinder, I think it might have been against South, at a core stadium, and he pretty much signed the next week as a halfback.
And what happened last year too, though, was one, they lost Lachlan Galvin, the Tigers, and while these offers coming in for him to play 13 at the Dragons and other clubs, he, as a stopgap, started playing halfback because Luai couldn't. We found out Luai couldn't play halfback. Luai had to go back to the 6 jersey because he just couldn't pull off running the team. But lo and behold, it worked. Luai was doing the job. So suddenly the Tigers, they had this spine. You looked at it and you thought, well, they got Coruscant, Buller, Luai, Doueihi. Had some people at the beginning of the season say, you know what, they're a subset of top 4 chances. I thought a bit ambitious, but certainly a lot of people said, everything goes okay.
One of the better spines.
They're a top 8 side. Shane Richardson came out and said it's the best spine in the NRL. Don't quite believe that, but that was the optimism around the club. Well, they all soon turned bad, didn't it? Because what happened, Luai, he exercised his clause, he got out and he left and he signed with Papua New Guinea, and then I think Doueihi was mistreated. I think Benji is the head coach. One, mate, turn up to his judiciary. I don't care what you got going on at home, mate. You turn up there and you show respect that one of your chief players deserves. He didn't do that. He didn't then ring him and tell him he wasn't in the starting lineup, which the team had been announced at 4 p.m. that afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, before he went to the Judiciary. Didn't tell him that, didn't tell him why. He learned from a friend who rang him up and said the next day, what's going on? So when you talk about disrespect, I think Doueihi's well entitled to say, hang on. Because the counter argument is you just do what the coach tells you to do. It's a team game you play. But it goes both ways. It really does go both ways. And the Tigers, it's just amateur hour there. There are standards within just of behaviour within every club, within every sport. Mm-hmm. One of which is you tell a player why he has been demoted. Mm. You tell the player. You tell the player before your team's announced.
Mm. They seem to be the most dysfunctional club by a country mile. The fact that they've allowed this to happen and it's just one thing after another now.
Well, it is, and it's going to continue, because this is far from resolved. Mm. That's the thing. Like Mellencamp today thought in his head, I'm sure, I'll come out, I'll give a statement, and he said this silly bit. It's really important that what was said in the room stays in the room. Well, that'll get blown apart within the next 48 hours, right? It's naive to think that. It's naive to me, it suggests they couldn't resolve it. Mm. So they couldn't come out in a united front and say, we've had our meeting. Yes, we did this, we understand this, we acknowledge we did this wrong.
Mistake. He made that mistake.
And we are now, and a good club more than likely would have had the coach and player turn up and talk about it.
So what would you give the chances of Adam Doueihi staying at the club next year?
Small.
Yeah.
Very small. I sort of spitballed last week that whether it was a strategy to get him out of the club. Mm. I don't think it was now. Okay. I said it was my conspiracy theory. I don't think it was now, but I do think it's certainly a chance now. I think there's a chance now that Doueihi, he sees the dysfunction at the club.
But he stayed there through 3 spoons. You know, he put up with 3 spoons, 22, 23, 24. They won spoons. Last year was the first time they didn't get a spoon.
But the other part of this, though, was he stayed there, and with all those spoons was the incoming Tim Sheens, superstar coach. That brings hope. Then you got Benji coming back as a coach. That brings hope. And hope can keep you nourished. Mm-hmm. It can keep you there. But if that hope's extinguished, which I now think it is, because I think Doueihi this year, this is the Tigers where they've evolved to now. Mm. There's no, this is coming, this is going to fix us. There's no hope there. And I think Doueihi's sitting there and he's signed to the end of
2029.
2029. And I think he thinks, well, mate, and Benji's there to the end of 2030. Mm. So I think in his head he's like, this is what it is. Benji's starting to be there long enough now. He's cementing in his ethos as a coach, what he is and he's been there long enough now for players to figure out what he stands for and what he won't stand for and what he stands against and all of that and how he operates. Whereas 18 months ago, you could give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's still learning. Mm. He'll still learn this. He'll still pick that up. Whereas now, and you can see the way Benji's digging in on a few things in other statements in recent weeks, where he's put his foot down and been basically Benji. Hmm. But I think Doueihi's just thought, you know what, this is where we're at now. This is what it is.
And I don't want to be part of it.
And I think I think for the next 5 weeks, and he's got the best in the business agitating to get out of the contract. Hmm. I think in the next 5 weeks there's a lot going to happen. I think it's far from resolved. And for Tigers fans, Mellencamp's statement today was designed to quieten the noise, bring a resolution, show everyone there's a resolution, and bring peace to the war. It's done the opposite. It's so little on information. All you can do is sit down and say, well, they clearly couldn't fix it. They clearly couldn't, they don't want to run the risk of saying we made this decision or we've done this for fear that Doueihi might say, well, that's bullshit. That didn't happen. So they've just got to say, look, we're not going to talk about it. What stays in the room, what's said in the room stays in the room. When it'll be all over 360 later tonight, and the papers tomorrow morning, and
well,
100% footy tonight. Like, it's the worst day in the world for them to, you know what I mean? It's the worst. Like,
the Monday.
Yeah,
they should have done it yesterday, and it would have gone away by today.
Well, at least a lot of the energy's gone out of it by today.
Yeah.
And what they do at home, yesterday they sat home and watched the boxing on TV. Who knows what they did? But they all sat at home yesterday. It should have been fixed yesterday.
Family day,
and it would have been all resolved because, not resolved, it would have been partly impacted by all the other sport that was going on and yesterday's games and what was happening yesterday and all the rest of it. And there's only so much time every news bulletin can give to rugby league. They should have just pushed it on that amongst the scores and the updates of around the grounds and all the rest of it.
Very naive from the West Tigers, and it is exhausting to think of what those West Tigers fans go through. It's very, very poor.
I ran into one of my mates on Saturday, and he was exhausted by it all. He just said, mate, don't talk to me about him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he's like, they started the season 4 out of 5, and everyone thought, this is our year. We're going to make the 8 this year. They're second last now.
Yeah. Let's move on, Kenty, because I've got no doubt we'll be talking about the West Tigers a lot more during the week. I want to talk about Foranball, which the air seems to have come out of the Foranball.
Yeah, they lost 3 of their last 4. They got the bye this week, and it couldn't come at a better time for them.
2 from 8 now.
2 from 8, yeah. And look, it's not really the football. Like, it's not the Foranball. The Foranball wasn't winning them games in many ways, and it's not why they're losing games. But I think they've just got it's a hard one to pinpoint, but it looks like they've just assumed, they play like an assumption, it's just all going to come into place for them. And what Kieran Foran did when he first got there at Manly was he got him back in the fight, and he got him understanding that they could take nothing for granted. And suddenly it started to work. They started to work they put efforts into what they were doing on the field, and it started to work. They started to get a few wins, and they went on, 6 games in a row or something that they won. And everybody thought, wow. At some point, I think they've probably started to rest on their laurels a little bit and just assume that, okay, what we're doing is working with it, and then they've just dropped back that little bit, and it's not working. Because I had to look at their games. The 3 of the last 4 that they've lost close games. They got flogged on the weekend. It's not like there's a common theme there. It just seems to be a team that, they've just taken their eye off what was working for them a little bit. I think they just probably need to refocus. Now, that could be fatigue. That could be it's been a long season. I don't know when they had their last bye, but Kieran Foran has given them a couple of days off, told them to just go away, clear their heads, and then they'll get back to training later in the week. And what they'll do out of that, then they'll obviously have an extended preparation into their next game. So they need that. They need to go and freshen up and just find what they were doing that they're no longer doing.
Kenty, just to finish up, I just want to touch on the Gold Coast Titans yesterday. I know it was a spoon bowl, so it was a difficult game, but what they showed in attack was phenomenal.
Yeah, speed.
Yeah.
What about Pascoe, some of his efforts yesterday at hooker, Josh Hannay's done a really good job there. Yeah, it's really interesting actually, because the 2 teams that roster-wise were well behind the rest of the NRL, the Dragons and the Titans, and both have shown some real signs of life in recent weeks. I thought the Dragons were a little bit disappointing given the opportunity they had yesterday.
They're flat.
Yeah, they I don't know why. It was their perfect chance to go out and get their tail up and have a good win, playing at home, playing at a ground that they like to play at, the other teams don't like to play at. But the Titans were just ready for the game, and they were just up for the game. You've got to have players in your team that can score long-distance tries these days.
Yep.
If you don't have it, you are dead.
Yep.
You need speed. The Titans are doing that. Hannay's recognised all that. And the improvement in some of those, Kenny's just a marvel, and there's a few other Pascoe, as I said, his game continues to get better. They've got some real class players coming through.
The thing I like at what Josh Hannay's done there is he's managed to put all the pieces together. because there was so many question marks over who would play where and what would happen. But he sorted it out.
Well, the roster looked a bit out of shape, didn't it? And he's moved it around, and we speak a lot about that on this show about coaches who are able to come in and look at a playing group and figure out how to get the best out of that playing group and get the players playing their best, and not go to this rubbish mentality. Oh, it's going to take me 3 years to get the roster in shape. Because you don't have 3 years in the modern game. That's just the coach trying to buy excuses.
Well, you look at what's happened at Newcastle and the Titans, and I know the Titans are coming second last, but you look at what they're doing, maybe third last now. What they're doing.
No, they're fifth last.
Okay,
they got fourth. Mate, Brisbane and Parramatta are below.
Yeah, right.
Equal on competition points, but I'm for and against.
Well, that's the perfect thing. You look at what's going on at Parramatta, and they've had 2 years to rebuild, and they're still nowhere.
Yeah,
compared to those two teams.
Yeah, I know he's done a magnificent job, Hannay. I think Young will do a similar job. Like you can see the change in the Dragons when he's gone to a bit of that youth policy and he's blooding the young players. It's just got to take a little bit longer to get there, but it's pretty exciting for both those teams that they've shown such improvement. Who did think this time of the year Titans would be sitting on the ladder ahead of the Broncos?
Well, particularly at the start of the year when they were playing so poorly. Let's talk about the Broncos tomorrow, because I think we've got a bit to unpack there with the Broncos. I think it's probably a whole episode on itself. All right, Kenty. Something tells me it's going to be another big week.
It's going to be a big week. More to come.
More to come.
Just finish it with more to come.
We'll be back again tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.